Blind number 4, it's a long angle entry, catches a tip of a point and then has to cast off the point to the left. And some of the dogs actually wanted to dive in that right-hand pond, and that's really understandable because blinds 1, 2, and 3 were in the right-hand pond. Well, here's a little better view really identifying blind number 4. And I did 2 angle entries, and I liked that even better. Here's the ground view perspective. Now, as if we didn't have enough of a challenge, we've put the edge of the tree right on line to this blind. And, well, again, the dogs tended to flare right and break for that right-hand pond. Here's what the dog's going to see. From ground level, when you say dead bird, that's a challenging look for any dog of any level. Well, here's a really good perspective. Well, you see that brush around the tree and you see the water in the distance. Well, notice how if they duck to the right over the point, you're going to lose sight of them. So the handlers, well, they had to be on the ball. If they were a little too conservative, well, they were at risk of not getting on the point at all. And if you waited a little too long, well, that didn't work very well either. You had to get in the water, get on the point, and kick off the point with some left momentum. Well, here we go. The drone is going to give us that perspective that the dog's going to have at different levels. Well, there's that cover around that edge of that tree that would very easily force you to the right. But now the picture really comes into view. Big water on the left. And if the dogs were maybe a little overly watery, they'd want to dive in that water on the left. And like I said, some of the dogs, well, they wanted to break for this right-hand piece of water. And here comes your approach. Now, here's your angle entry. And well, you had to play it just right to get in the water and get enough water, but not get too much. You don't get a lot of water before the point. You get a little corner, do a little bit of an angle. Some dogs wanted to go between that little island on the left and the point. This is your approach oftentimes. That's when you're trying to set it up. And, I kind of like to get into the right, get out right about there, and then give a left-handed cast, kind of like the drone's doing. The drone's running a pretty good blind here. You got to angle across there, and if you want to get out of the water early, well, it would be easy to go to the right. And remember, our blinds from our previous series were on the right. Well, all right, let's get a dog up to line. Aaron's just finished blinds 1, 2, and 3, and you got a little bit of a walk to the left to get started here. One, two, come on. Yeah. The harder you push at that tree, the more you push her in the water. So that's the tricky thing there. And she's just trying to be compliant, get in the water. So we got to do an angle entry, and you're not going to take the whistle on your mouth and silent cast. Again. Now go right verbal. Back. All right. All right, go silent. I might have taught you no bad whistle there. That's okay. Well, I'll tell you what, as a handler, those angle entries, boy, they can be challenging. The dog's trying to do the right thing. The more whistles you blow, the more they think they should be in the water. Well, Jim and Aaron get to practice this over the course of 4 to 5 days. So there's a real art and a finesse to an angle entry. Let's put her on the point. Don't be in a hurry to cast. Go ahead. Get her stopped when she gets up there and cast her off the point. Keep the whistle in your mouth. Don't be in a hurry to cast. So what cast are you going to give here? Now, I really encourage the handlers to give literal casts, not too big. Now, on game day, well, I'm probably going to give a relatively big silent left angle with a step and be ready to blow if they dig back. But Jim, he's going to give Erin a challenge, and her wateriness in the beginning really says, go ahead and challenge her on this cast. Okay. Very nice. Good girl, Erin. You saw how she jumped a little left to comply there before she got in the water. You really got to love it. Erin's really trying her heart out. It would have been easy for a dog that wanted to get out of the water to dig hard right on that cast.
Go for those white flowers.
Well, good job, Jim and Aaron. I know they're going to want to work on that angle entry for tomorrow, but the ending, the point, really, really nice. Well, here's a little more accurate overhead view of blinds 5 and 6. Look at the entry into the front pond, the crescent pond. You got two diagonal entries again, don't you? And you got to cross that piece of land and go into the bigger water. Wind was blowing left to right on this particular day, and if the dogs didn't want to make the big swim, well, it was easy to lose them to the right here. Well, here's that view from the line, and yep, there's that pesky brush around the tree. You get a good view of the crescent pond. It took a lot of finesse and just the right amount of aggressiveness to get in the water in the crescent pond at the right spot. And here's a view of a handler setting up for that blind. Yeah, most handlers ran this blind off of the left, trying to influence them tighter to the tree and get that angle entry. Buckle up, we're going for a ride again. Here's that approach to that tree, and that cover's a little thicker there, and there's a little bit of a terrain deal, so pushes the dogs to the right a bit again. And, well, if they don't want to get in the water, that's a good excuse to get started to the right. Now, here's your approach. Here's this angle entry we talked about. Now, if you let the dog dig hard right here and start to commit to the water hard, it really became difficult to get in at the right spot. So you had to kind of favor the left corner on your approach. A lot of dogs wanted to jump and square into the right here. And if they started a right perspective right in there, well, then it made that reentry coming up here even harder. There's that big water look, and again, easy for the dogs to want to break right here and maybe not make that big swim. So now you're crossing some open water, a channel to your left. You see how this shoreline kind of angles? It's not real obvious from the line, but well, here's that little point we get. Boom, you get them stopped on this point, and if you don't give a little left hand cast here, it's easy for them to jump across to the right and get out really where you don't want to get out.
Back. Now, go here. Go here. Come on, you can do this. Come on.
Take your time.
Yep.
Step up a little harder on her. Here's where moving forward of that neutral position will influence a dog to the left. Now, I don't want a false line, point left of the tree, but I do want to influence tight to the tree. When she gets through the cover, she's probably going to break hard for the pond.
Right.
So you don't want to let her commit to the pond too hard before you blow your next whistle.
Good. Back.
I'm going to take that. Blow, come on. Can't let her commit. Once they get over that ledge, it's harder to keep them out of the water. Come on. Now you got it. Oh, now she's over around the whole pond. Verbal step. Well, it's really tricky getting in just at the right spot. He gave Erin multiple left-handed casts, and the last one, well, she was going to actually go around the pond, so he had to stop her, but he gave her a challenging straight-up right verbal cast to get in the water. Careful creating too much right momentum here. Ruh-roh. Well, she jumped off to the right. We probably should have stopped her right before she got in and reestablished a little left momentum. Remember that was death when you let them dive off right. That's why I was worried about a big right cast. If you cast them right, you're going to see where she showed up based on the cast you gave right there. You want to cross that piece of land left of the blind. Wait just a minute. If you have to stop her to put her on, you're going to do it with the right verbal back. Get on. Get ready. I want you to blow as soon as she gets out. And you're going to give a left-hand cast. Now. Wait. Maybe step left straight up. Remember when we took the drone flight, how easy it would have been for dogs to jump to the right and show up way right? So we had to cast them a little left to avoid that hazard. There you go. Watch how pretty that's going to turn out. Watch where she shows up. Beyond the peg. Now that's what I'm talking about, right there. Boom. Excellent. Well, you can see that I'm excited. I know Jim is too. They're really getting it together. Good job, guys. One more to go, guys. Here's a look for the dog's perspective. A little cleaner look up front, isn't it? Long angle entry again, but you don't have to deal with that brush around the tree here. Again, we're repeating that diagonal entry into this crescent pond. So little different spot, but same flavor, same intent. Well, there's your angle in. This time, well, we get on that same point and we've got to practice that left-handed cast right there. Now it's just a channel blind, a long channel blind to stay in the water. Not much of a channel in the beginning, but as you get towards the end, you kind of thread the needle between that point and those 2 points. The water blind we just did, you can see the marker just on the right there. And now we're going to go to the end of the pond. There you go. You're going to be glad to be done here. A lot closer. Looks pretty good, Jim, but same deal now. You're going to work on keeping her up high. What I'm referring to there is not letting her jump in that pond to the right. So keeping her up high is a little bit left. But I want you to start over and I want to just show you something. Sorry, just bring her back. You had her spine good.
Yep.
But okay, try to get her spine good again. That wasn't a bad dog thing. I just want to show you something I think. I want you to send them right there. So I was urging Jim to step a little forward to influence left in an effort to nail this initial line in the entry. All right, there you go. You step up a little more. Go ahead.
Back.
Pete. Again. Wait, let her go. Let her go. She's going to make a decision to get in. Watch. You see her show conscience when... Now that's what I'm talking about. Pretty darn cool. Remember I told you, patient on the left, urgent on the right.
Yep.
On this.
You're going to have right momentum coming out of here.
And then you're going to stop and give a left-handed silent cast. But just go pretty straight with this first one. Again. Good. You wait. Now I want you to give a little bigger angle towards the dock. Let's see how she... All right. Go ahead and do it again. All right. Don't know. Well, it feels like an eternity for them to show up. You really have to have a strategy when casting into that big out of sight area. Well, there she is. Jim, great job being proactive on that re-entry point and casting her. Well, that last whistle really probably was the key to getting her where she needs to be. This is a good time to reiterate what I said about a strategy when you're casting into an out of sight area. You really need to make sure you have the momentum going in the direction you need prior to entering that out of sight area. And Jim did a good job there, establishing the right left momentum. Wait. Go ahead. She didn't give you much. Blow again. Wait a little longer this time. This is where That good water tread you did in swim by pays off. I'm trying to sweat her a little bit. She didn't give us enough cast on the previous cast. Looks like that sweating her paid off. She gave us a pretty darn good cast there. Now she's really threading tight between a couple of points. Don't let up now, Jim. We worked too hard to get this far to let this go south on us at the last minute.
Walk a bigger left
Gotta
angle
keep
up.
your focus. Well, it's red zone work
Keep going,
right here.
Luciano.
Get another whistle. Get her stopped. Good job, Jim. Way to dig in. Got a little hairy at the end of that blind, didn't it? Keeping your focus for 20 plus minutes for both dog and handler. That's a real challenge. You do that 4 to 5 days, you're really going to make your dogs a better water blind dog, a better handling dog, and you a better handler as well. Well, thanks for joining me on a water tune-up drill.